a Starfleet Admiral Nora Satie was one of the Federation's most renowned officers in the latter part of the 24th century. Unfortunately, after retiring, this admiral proceeded on a course of conduct which would expose a serious flaw in the Admiral herself and in Starfleet admirals in general. The old adage, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Hello and welcome to Trek Facts, a fun and fast informational web series on the fundamentals of Star Trek. In today's episode, we're taking a look at a constant problem in Starfleet that keeps coming up, the corruption of the Admiralty, in an effort to better understand their role in Star Trek. During her childhood, Nora Satie's father would pose a question for her and her brothers to debate during their dinner time. Nora herself, being quite intelligent, would often outsmart her brothers, winning the argument with a subtle point of logic, a trait her father loved dearly. And Satie's love for her father instilled his moral values in the young girl, which included a deep devotion to the United Federation of Planets, as both her and her father believed the Federation to be the most remarkable union ever conceived. Over the years, Satie would work very hard and eventually become a very important admiral in Starfleet, even issuing the orders for Captain Jean-Luc Picard to take command of the newly constructed USS Enterprise D in 2363.
To take command of the USS Enterprise as of this date, signed Rear Admiral Nora Satie, Starfleet Command.
She was also instrumental in uncovering a conspiracy by parasitic beings intent on invading and conquering the Federation in 2364.
Retired Admiral Nora Satie, whose investigation exposed the alien conspiracy against Starfleet Command 3 years ago, is arriving to assist in our inquiry.
Being so loyal to Starfleet and the Federation, Admiral Satie was stationed on multiple planets and starbases, and as such did not often have contact with her family and friends, a situation that she did not regret one bit. Though seemingly the example for a Starfleet officer to live by, this hero would set in motion a course of events that would lead to her downfall and expose a problem that many admirals were believed to have within Starfleet. By 2367, Satie had retired, but when an explosion occurred aboard the USS Enterprise D, Satie was brought out of retirement in an effort to expose any saboteurs or potential threats to the Federation at large. Satie, working with the crew of the Enterprise D, as well as some of her old teammates, quickly determined the saboteur was Jadan, a Klingon assigned to the Enterprise as part of the Officer Exchange Program, who was actually working for the Romulan Star Empire as a spy. And although he admitted his role as a spy, he denied sabotaging the Enterprise. An assertion later confirmed by the Enterprise's chief engineer, Geordi LaForge, after examining the core itself. The actual cause of the explosion was a defect in the dilithium chamber's cover. During her investigation, however, Satie discovered that a medical technician named Simon Tarsis had lied on his application to Starfleet, hiding the fact that part of his heritage was in fact Romulan.
I think, Captain, you have a bigger problem on your ship than just one Klingon exchange officer.
Using this fact as a launching pad, Satie then began to examine every officer on board the Enterprise. Captain Picard, in an effort to stop what he referred to as a witch hunt, spoke to the Admiral about his concerns, and as a result was immediately flung into the Admiral's crosshairs, who was determined to bring Picard down at any cost.
Would it surprise you to learn that you have violated the Prime Directive a total of 9 times since you took command of the Enterprise? I must say, Captain, it surprised the hell out of me. Tell me, Captain, when the deception was revealed and she stood proudly on the bridge of a Romulan ship, did you make any effort to retrieve her?
Captain Picard did the only thing he could.
Really, Lieutenant? And where were you when this traitor was on board the Enterprise? Where was ship security?
Don't you think it's questionable judgment, Captain, to have a security officer whose father was a Romulan collaborator?
Tell me, Captain, have you completely recovered from your experience with the Borg? I question your actions, Captain. I question your choices. I question your loyalty.
By bringing up various command decisions and actions Picard had taken during his reign as Enterprise captain, she attempted to weave together a tapestry to dishonor the captain, and seemed to be succeeding, when Captain Picard, in a brilliant maneuver, was able to show the Admiral's complete mental instability, effectively ending the investigation aboard the Enterprise.
Those words were uttered by Judge Aaron Satie as wisdom and warning. I fear that today...
How dare you! You who consort with Romulans, invoke my father's name to support your traitorous arguments.
It is over. Admiral Henry has called an end to any more hearings on this matter.
We think we've come so far. Torture of heretics, burning of witches, all ancient history. Then, before you can blink an eye, suddenly it threatens to start all over again. Mr. Worf, villains who twirl their mustaches are easy to spot. Those who clothe themselves in good deeds are well camouflaged.
All throughout Starfleet's history, it's been proven time and time again that absolute power can corrupt absolutely.
Like what you see. Absolute power corrupting absolutely.
In this case, however, it was the fact that once having power, and then losing it due to retirement, then presented with an opportunity to gain even more back than she originally had, Admiral Satie embarked on a course of action unbecoming to a Starfleet Admiral. But the problem with Starfleet is this wasn't the only Admiral that had this type of problem, or was corrupt in some way, regardless of their position and public view in the Federation. In the latter half of the 23rd century, Admiral Cartwright of Earth was instrumental in keeping Starfleet operational when a probe of immense strength and unknown intent began attacking Earth. But then, in 2293, Cartwright participated in a conspiracy to sabotage the peace talks between the Federation and the Klingon Empire. Ultimately unsuccessful and placed under arrest for his role in the entire affair, it was again an example of a Starfleet Admiral overstepping his bounds in pursuit of his own personal beliefs and goals. Though most corrupt admirals were caught long before too much damage could be done.
How many people does it take, Admiral, before it becomes wrong? 1,000? 50,000? 1,000,000? How many people does it take, Admiral?
This wasn't the case with Admiral Mark Jameson. Being a Starfleet officer all his life, Admiral Jameson had made a name for himself when he negotiated the release of hostages on the planet Mordon 4. As a result, he quickly rose in rank and remained an active officer in Starfleet. Unfortunately, during his last command of the USS Gettysburg, Jameson contracted an incurable disease known as Iverson's disease, and became confined to a wheelchair by 2360. When a similar hostage situation occurred in 2364 on Mordon 4, the Enterprise picked up Admiral Jameson and his wife as a direct request of the planet's governor Karnas to have Jameson negotiate once again for the hostages. What was unknown at the time, but quickly became apparent, was that Jameson had acquired 2 doses of an age-reversing drug from Cerebus 2.
Well, Admiral, quite a little surprise you've pulled on us.
Having intended to use only 1 dose for himself and 1 for his wife, Jameson instead used the full 2 doses and began to de-age rapidly. Making the situation worse, Captain Jean-Luc Picard was eventually able to discover the reason for the Admiral's use of the doses.
Karnas seized the passengers of a Starliner and held them hostage, demanding that Starfleet provide him with weapons that would enable him to defeat his rivals. The story is that after 2 other mediators were murdered, I went in and negotiated with Karnas to bring out the hostages safely. It wasn't my golden ore toy that saved them, Captain. I gave Karnas the weapons he wanted. I gave exactly the same weapons to his rivals. my interpretation of the Prime Directive. Let them solve their problems with those arms on an equal basis.
And that decision plunged them into 40 years of civil war.
In a misguided attempt to fix this clear violation of the Prime Directive and clear his conscience, Admiral Jameson took all the medication he had, which eventually resulted in his death in front of Karnas on the planet's surface. And one of the biggest scandals in Federation history occurred in 2370, when it was discovered that Admiral Eric Pressman had conducted illegal experiments in an effort to develop a phase cloaking device in clear violation of the Treaty of Algeron with the Romulan Star Empire. It should be noted that these are only a few examples of admirals within Starfleet abusing their power. However, generally speaking, it is a very small minority that falls into this category. There will always be those individuals that will abuse the power given to them, a trait that is not confined to humanity alone. But overall, the Starfleet Admiralty would be a well-oiled machine attempting to work for the betterment of Starfleet and the Federation, and without them, Starfleet would be unable to function. It is the responsibility of all Starfleet officers to keep a watchful eye on each other and question or report any unusual behavior they see in another officer. These checks and balances are an effort to keep not only the Admiralty in line, but also any other officer that seems to be on a destructive course for an abuse of power. This system has been effective to varying degrees.
I will expose you for what you are. I've brought down bigger men than you, Picard.
Admiral Janeway, how good to see you again.
Jean-Luc, how'd you like a trip to Romulus? I don't need to tell you to watch your back, Jean-Luc.